Hi everybody and welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Greta and I'm the dietitian at Za'atar Cancer Center. So I have another new recipe for you, and this one was probably one of my favorites of the new recipes I trialed this time. So it is another tofu dish, but it's very interesting, very different, and we're going to use a new seasoning that I had not used before. So it is a baked tofu dish, but there's also a fresh component to it, and we're going to make a dressing for it. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to start by, whenever we're working with tofu, we want to get the excess liquid off. So I am using Firmus tofu, my local tofu that I really like. And remember, we have to get that excess liquid. So we don't want that liquid that's in the bag. So we're going to set that bag aside, and then I have some handy dandy paper towels here, and I'm just going to kind of wrap it up in my paper towels and just sort of set it aside so some of that extra liquid kind of gets soaked out. So on my sheet pan right here, I've got some garbanzo beans or chickpeas. I have a whole can or garbanzo beans. I also have a pint of cherry or grape tomatoes, whatever you have available. This is a great recipe too when you have lots of tomatoes at the end of the summer too. So they're on my sheet tray. I just put a little salt and pepper on them. So we're going to hold off on those for just a second. So we're going to make sort of a marinade for our chickpeas and for our tofu. And actually, we're going to start with my lemon. So I've got a big bowl right here. This is going to be for our marinade. So we're going to use lemon in two different places. So in this bowl, we want to go ahead, get out our microplane or the back of your grater, and we just want to go ahead and zest one of your two lemons right into this big bowl right here. And remember, when we zest, we just want the really bright yellow part. We don't want the white part. So we're just going only as deep as to get to the whiter part and stop. So I just travel all the way around my lemon. And then in our dressing that will top this, we'll use the lemon juice. And we need about a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. It's always hard to know if we're going to need 1 or 2 lemons to accomplish that based on how juicy your lemon is. So I always say have 2 just in case, because you may need 2, but you might not. All right, so that's my zest. So we're going to set that aside because we don't want the juice in that. So I'm going to go ahead and juice my first lemon. And I like doing it right into the measuring cup, then I know how close I am. Guess I said a 1/4 cup. I think we need a whole 1/2 cup for this. We need lots of lemon juice for this. So let's see where we land here. This was a pretty juicy lemon. But I always hope to get, at least a couple tablespoons out of each half. I am going to go ahead and do my other one. Ooh, this one was even juicier. So like I said, once we get the lemons juiced, we're going to set the lemon juice aside. We're going to use that later to make our tahini topping for this. And the lemon juice really brightens it up quite a bit. All right. Perfect. All right, let's set that lemon juice aside. Now we're going to keep building our marinade. So bring my bowl back. So I'm going to need a couple cloves of garlic. And we want it pretty fine for this. It is a marinade. So we probably don't want some big, thick chunks of garlic. You can do it on your microplane. You can do it in a press. You can chop it fine. Whatever you're comfortable with is fine. You know me, I don't like chopping garlic. I'm doing this a little extra clove because it was tiny. Because it's sticky, and then it sticks to your knife, and it sticks to the cutting board, and so it makes me a little bonkers. But I think in this case, I might chop it up. All right. That's my oven. So at this point, you would want your oven preheated to 425 because we are going to roast the chickpeas and tomatoes by themselves with the marinade for just a little bit, about 15 minutes. And then we're going to add the tofu to the same pan and roast that all together. So this is a good point to get your oven ready to go. I'm just chopping through this. So it called for 2 cloves. My cloves were kind of puny, so I just went ahead and did 4. You know me, if it says garlic, I'm probably doubling it. It's just like anything vegetable, I always tend to go a little overboard. So sitting on my cutting board right next to my garlic, I'm going to show you right here, I have a whole pile of Italian flat leaf parsley. And the recipe has it has 1/2 cup chopped. We only need 1/4 cup chopped for the marinade, but I'm going to go ahead and get it all chopped ahead of time. That way that step's done for later and we've worked ahead. You know me, I like to work ahead. All right. I'm not opposed to this size of garlic for this particular recipe. If you're more comfortable with grating it or crushing it in your garlic press, either way is fine. But I'm going to go ahead and put my garlic in with my lemon zest, just like that. See, sticky garlic. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and chop my parsley. I'm very excited because I've got all my herbs planted for the season, so I soon will be able to just go out my back door and have access to all the fresh herbs I want, which is why the summer is my favorite. So I use fresh herbs in just about everything, and even if a recipe doesn't call for it, I figure out a way to add it because they do add so much flavor and just so much brightness. Even like if I've chopped extra flat leaf parsley, I just put it on, as a topping on top of a salad. I mix it into a soup, or if I make a pasta dish, I'll just sprinkle it on top. It just adds another layer of flavor and freshness. And I'm using my short knife today. It's a little bit more challenging with such a big pile of parsley. All right, look at that. It is beautiful. All right, so we're just going to do half of this, because remember we need the other half later on. So I'm not going to do the full amount. I'm just doing about half of this in my marinade. I'm just going to throw it in that bowl right there. Perfect. Since I just did garlic, my knife is sticky, my fingers are sticky. Oh, garlic. All right, so to this, we're also going to add our 1/2 cup of extra virgin olive oil, which I had all measured out here. Adds lots of flavor, also keeps things from sticking. Okay. All right, so now is our surprise seasoning. So this is Za'atar seasoning. It is a spice mix. You could actually make your own mix, make your own Za'atar seasoning. It is a Middle Eastern seasoning. Oh, it smells so good. It's just It's very earthy. So we're going to go ahead and put 1.5 tablespoons. This is actually a 1.5 tablespoon measuring spoon. If you're wondering why I'm only using one measuring spoon. All right. And another great earthy one is some dried oregano. So we're going to go ahead and do a teaspoon of dried oregano, which is another great Mediterranean, Middle Eastern style seasoning. Beautiful. Okay. I'm going to grab a little spoon, sort of mix that all together. All right. So we're just going to take half of this and put it over top of our tomatoes and chickpeas right here. So I'm going to kind of eyeball about half. Perfect. And then I just kind of take my spoon, put it right through my foil, kind of toss these guys all around in this so they kind of get well coated. So then, like I said, we're going to go ahead and roast this for about 15 minutes, and then we're going to come back and add a few things to our marinade and work on our tofu. So come right back. Okay, so our chickpeas and tomatoes are in the oven, so we're going to go ahead and work on our tofu, and to our marinade, we're going to add some soy sauce, and this is going to be what we marinate our tofu in. So we're just going to add 2 tablespoons of soy sauce to the marinade that we made. Perfect. We're going to come back to my tofu that's had a chance to lose some of its liquid. We'll come over here so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. So I'm going to unnestle it. And then I'm just going to slice this into about 1/2-inch slices. Just like that. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to give my marinade just a little stir since I added that soy sauce to it. I'm going to go ahead and take my tofu and sort of start nestling it in to my marinade. Give her a zhuzh. Put it over here so you can see it better. Just like that. Add another piece. So I'm going to then let my tofu sit in this marinade for the 15 minutes while the tomatoes and chickpeas are working. And then we'll come back and we'll add those to the sheet pan to roast along with it. See you then. So my chickpeas and tomatoes are still in their roasting, so I was going to go ahead and make the dressing that we're going to use to top this. So it's another tahini-based dressing. So we've done that before. Tahini is a sesame paste. It doesn't, you know, peanut butter has a very distinct taste. Tahini is a little bit more mellow than that. You don't eat something and immediately say, you know, like, oh, there's peanut butter in there, like you do with the tahini, but it has the same consistency. It might be just a little bit looser. I have in this little bowl here 2 tablespoons of water. So you know how sometimes when tahini and lemon juice play, it can thicken up. So we need something to kind of thin it down. So really nice cold water helps do that. So now we're going to go back to our reserve lemon juice. So my 2 lemons gave me just over 1/4 cup. So we just needed 1/4 cup. So I'm going to pour most of this in, but not quite all. All right. And then to that, I'm going to add a tablespoon of honey, which adds some nice sweetness. So we're going to have lots of lemon juice and lemon zest. and the tomatoes. So we're going to have really nice acidity. So you really almost need something to kind of counterbalance that acidity. So that's where your lemon juice comes in to offer that nice balance. All right. So that's all combined. So I'm going to take a little spoon again. Give her a stir. Now remember, when you make tahini-based dressings, you're going to think, oh, this is way too loose. And then you keep stirring and stirring and stirring. And then it gets thick again. And then you stir and stir and stir. And then it gets thinner again. So it's kind of the magic of mixing tahini and lemon juice together. Plus we have that honey in there that's going to give it a little thickness too. All right, I'm going to keep stirring up my dressing until that's ready to go. And it's almost time to add my tofu to the sheet pan, so we'll be right back. Okay, so I just took my chickpeas and tomatoes out of the oven. So the tomatoes are just starting to burst, and now I'm going to go ahead and add my tofu. So I wanted to show you that. So I'm just going to take some tongs, and we're just going to remove the tofu from the marinade and sort of nestle it in between the chickpeas and tomatoes. Sort of squeeze it in there, just like that. It smells so good already, and we've only got part of it done. Perfect. And I got one more. Just squeeze in here. Move some of these guys around. Gotta make room for one more. All right. And then we're not going to waste this reserve marinade. I'm going to go ahead and spoon some of this delicious marinade right over top of my tofu so it can absorb all that wonderful flavor while it cooks and roasts in our oven. Okay. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to go put this back into my 425-degree oven for another 15 minutes until the edges of the tofu just start to get brown. So I'll come back when it's done. We'll put it all together. Okay, so my chickpeas and tomatoes and tofu are out of the oven, and they look incredible. All the tofu is crisped up around the edges. So I'm just going to show you now how I like to serve it. So you want to have a little bowl of some nice greens. This is Swiss chard. You can use baby spinach, you can use mixed greens, whatever kind of greens that you like. I'm going to go ahead and add right on top some of that delicious tofu, just like that. Then I'm going to scoop up some of the tomatoes and chickpeas. The tomatoes have just burst and released all of their juice. Just delicious. I've got that reserve parsley here on my cutting board. I'm just going to sprinkle it with some of that fresh flat leaf parsley. And then my tahini dressing over here, which you can see has come back and thickened up a little bit as it sat. And we're just going to take that and sort of drizzle it right over the top as a dressing for those greens. And there you go. Tofu with mixed greens and roasted tomatoes and chickpeas. Thank you for joining me again. Enjoy.